You feel stuck because you're waiting for motivation, for clarity, for the perfect time. But none of that is coming. The only way out is to push yourself. That's how it happens. Not by luck, not by waiting, by deciding that comfort is no longer an option. The moment you demand more from yourself, everything changes. This is how the relentless rise, by doing what others won't until they can't be ignored. In a few moments, I will teach you how pushing yourself daily, ruthlessly becomes the reason everything in your life finally happens. You are stronger than you think. You've been told to wait, to hold back, to play it safe. But inside you, something is burning, something greater than you ever dared to admit. That feeling you keep trying to silence, that's your true power calling. It doesn't whisper, it roars. And until you answer it, you'll always feel restless. You were not made to drift through life, controlled by circumstance. You were made to conquer it. The doubt you feel, the hesitation in your step, that's not weakness. It's a signal. It's telling you you've stayed in place too long. You've listened too much to those who never dared to do more themselves. So, how do you start breaking through that invisible wall? You begin by telling yourself out loud that you are capable, not later, now. You push yourself not because it's easy, but because you must. Discipline is born the moment you take a step without motivation. That's when real strength begins. Imagine waking before the sun while the world still sleeps. You build your mind, your body, your vision before the world even opens its eyes. You don't wait for someone to push you, you push yourself every day. Without applause, without approval. Can you see yourself doing that? Ask yourself, are you using your strength or only imagining it? Are you moving or waiting for permission? You must act. Because life will not stop for you. The opportunity you seek won't knock politely. You must drag it into existence with your bare hands. The pain of regret is greater than the pain of discipline. There will come a day, maybe years from now, when you sit alone, eyes fixed on a wall that never answers back, and in that silence, you will either feel peace or regret. That is the price. Every choice you make today, every excuse, every delay, it adds weight to that moment. Most men would rather suffer comfort than confront growth. But comfort never builds a legacy. Comfort never built a great mind or forged a great destiny. The pain of discipline is sharp, yes, but it fades. The pain of regret, it lingers, it gnaws. So what do you do with this knowledge? You choose the harder path, not because it's painful, but because it frees you. You wake early. You say no to distraction. You train your will like a soldier trains his body. Every refusal, every repetition, every silent hour, these are bricks in the house of your future. Imagine looking back years from now, knowing you faced every fear, fought every excuse, and rose anyway. What if you lived a life where there was no what if? What if the man in the mirror was proud of you? Why live in delay when discipline can set you free? Why run from sweat when regret will haunt you longer? Which pain are you choosing each day, consciously or not? No one is coming to save you. You are not born to rescued, you were born to rise. Every time you wait for someone to give you a break, a sign, a miracle, you surrender your power. No one is coming. Not the perfect teacher, not the perfect moment, not the perfect feeling. It's just you and your decision. The world doesn't owe you understanding. It rewards the man who acts, who builds with bleeding hands and unwavering conviction, the man who takes the bricks thrown at him and constructs his foundation. But how do you move when the weight feels unbearable? You stop asking for relief and start creating results. You take one step, then another, and another. You keep your head down and your standards high. You rise before others. You do the hard thing when no one's watching. Picture yourself in a dark room. No help, no noise, just silence. Most freeze, but not you. You strike a match. You light your own way. That's what separates you. That's what makes you unstoppable. Are you still waiting for someone to pick you, or have you decided to pick yourself? Every day you wait is the day you stay stuck. Every day you act is the day you get stronger. Remember, your future isn't found, it's made. And no one else is going to make it for you. Discipline is the highest form of self-respect. If you respected yourself more, you'd waste less time. That's the truth most refuse to face. You say you want more, you dream of excellence, but your habits speak louder than your hopes. Discipline isn't punishment, it's honor. It's how a man proves to himself that he is worthy of the life he desires. You don't earn greatness through emotion. You earn it through repetition. Cold, deliberate, daily action. Discipline is how you remind yourself that your goals are real, that your future matters more than your feelings. How do you cultivate this fire? You make promises to yourself, and you keep them. You get up when the world sleeps. You work when your mind whispers excuses. You demand more, even when comfort is an option. That is self-respect in motion. Imagine a man who speaks few words, but every action screams consistency. He isn't loud. He's respected, not for what he says, but for what he proves daily. Could you become that man? Ask yourself, what does your day say about how much you respect your dream? What does your discipline say about the life you're building? You want to feel proud? Earn it. You want peace of mind? Build it with discipline. Nothing else will give it to you. Clarity creates power. Know what you want. A man without direction is a ship in fog, adrift, spinning, colliding with anything that moves. He may be strong, he may row with all his might, but no amount of effort matters when the course is unknown. Without clarity, he burns energy, not progress. He mistakes motion for meaning, and one day he wakes up tired, not because he worked too hard, but because he moved too aimlessly. His days blur together. His ambitions dissolve into routines. He becomes a man who survives, but never arrives. Clarity is not a luxury. It is the necessity. It is the compass that turns ordinary movement into meaningful motion. Most people go their whole lives without ever deciding what they truly want. They follow inherited dreams. They copy the desires of their peers. They run toward things because others seem to be running too. But they never ask, where am I actually going? And in doing so, they forfeit the right to shape their destiny. They don't live, they drift. But there comes a moment, quiet and powerful, when a man grows tired of drifting, when he senses the emptiness of borrowed goals, when the applause of others no longer drowns out the silence in his soul. And in that moment, if he dares, he gets still. He doesn't scroll, he doesn't escape, he listens, he writes, he confronts the fog, and asks himself the most dangerous question of all. If nothing stood in my way, what would I create? What would I become? It is not an easy question. It strips away excuses, it shatters illusions, because once you name your true desire, you can no longer pretend to be lost. You can no longer blame others or wait for a sign. You must either move toward it or admit you've chosen comfort over clarity. But once you declare it, the world shifts. Your focus sharpens, your energy aligns, your actions acquire direction. Suddenly, each day becomes a brick, not scattered sand. You build, you ascend, you become the man who climbs, not the man who circles. Picture yourself standing at the edge of a mountain. The sky is wide, the path is unclear, but your destination calls. Without vision, you wander. With vision, you conquer. The man with clarity doesn't avoid struggle, he welcomes it, because he knows where he's going. He isn't shaken by failure. He isn't swayed by noise. He walks with force. He speaks with purpose. He lives with aim. So ask yourself, do you really know what you want, or have you just been reacting to life? Push yourself to decide. Push yourself to declare, because once your vision is clear, your life becomes momentum. Every choice gains precision. Every step builds weight. And the man who once drifted becomes the man who arrives. Start before you're ready. You keep waiting for the right moment, for the perfect opening, for life to give you some divine sign that it's your time. You wait for the weather to calm, for the noise to stop, for confidence to strike like lightning from the sky. But let me speak to you plainly. That moment is not coming. If you keep waiting for everything to feel right, you'll still be standing in the same place 10 years from now, watching your life rust from the sideline. Readiness is a myth. It's the polished mask that fear wears to make hesitation feel smart. You think you need to be more prepared, more certain, more secure, but all that does is keep you stuck. You don't gain courage by pausing. You gain courage by stepping into the uncertainty and deciding to walk anyway. You don't become ready before the journey, you become ready in the journey, in the mess, in the mistakes, in the moments where your heart races and your knees shake and your mind screams, don't. That's where strength is forged. But how do you move when everything in you whispers, wait? You move anyway. You train yourself to act despite the discomfort. You take one step forward, not because it's perfect, but because it's possible. You write the sentence even if it's ugly. You start the workout even if it's short. You speak even if your voice trembles. You override the voice of fear with the decision to build, to become, to begin. Picture a man standing at the edge of a river. He watches the current, studies the depth, calculates the risk. He tells himself he'll cross when it's safer, when the water slows, when the sky clears, but the water never stills. The perfect moment never comes, and so he stands there, waiting until one day he looks across and sees another man on the far side. That man is soaked, scraped, out of breath, but he made it. Not because he was braver, not because he was smarter, but because he started. Ask yourself, how many times have you let fear delay your life? How many dreams have you buried under the weight of not yet? You don't need more time. You need more courage. You need to stop worshiping comfort and start honoring progress. Because here is the truth. Action changes everything. Not thought, not preparation, not prayer without pursuit. Action. It's how you sharpen your mind. It's how you build confidence. It's how you rewrite the story of your life, step by trembling step. So, don't wait for certainty. Don't wait to feel ready. Push yourself forward because you feel afraid. Walk through that fear like it's a doorway, because it is. The man who wins is the one who acts. When it's hard, when it's risky, when it's messy, he falls, he bleeds, but he builds. And that's why he rises. You don't have time to waste. You think you have time, but you don't. That's the cruelest illusion, the softest lie you've been fed since childhood. There's always tomorrow. No, there isn't. Time is not patient. It does not pause to accommodate your hesitation. It does not slow when you feel lost. Each second that passes is a decision, a sentence written into your story, whether you chose it or not. The clock isn't a companion. It's a quiet executioner. It watches, it waits, and it takes. Every day you delay is a day that disappears, never to return. The man who succeeds, the man who shapes his life into something sharp and remarkable, is not always the most talented or the most lucky. He is simply the man who understands that time is life, nothing else. You can lose your job, your money, your home, and recover. But the hours you wasted, the mornings you slept through, the days you spent scrolling, doubting, overthinking, they are gone, irretrievable. That is the price of inaction, and it is steep. So what do you do with that truth? You stop pretending you have endless pages to fill. You stop living like you're rehearsing for the real show. This is the show. The curtain has already risen. The audience is time itself, and it demands a performance worthy of your breath. You must rise with urgency, not panic, but purpose. You must walk through your days as if they are sacred, because they are. You must treat your calendar like a battlefield, defending it from laziness, from comfort, from delay. Picture this: two men. Same goal, same opportunity. One wakes before the sun, locks into his discipline, refuses to waste an hour. He is tired, yes, but focused. He begins, he builds, he endures. The other man nods thoughtfully, says he'll begin when it feels right, or next week, or after things settle down. He thinks he has time. 1 year later, the first man is transformed, sharper, stronger, respected. The second man is still imagining, still preparing, still waiting. You already know who wins. And here's the hard question: which one are you? Are you truly living in alignment with your vision, or are you sleepwalking through your hours, hoping that someday life will shake you awake? Time doesn't shout, it whispers. And before you know it, decades vanish while you are thinking about it. You must treat time like gold, because it is rarer, more precious, and more fleeting. Stop trading your hours for distractions, for comfort, for hollow escapes that give you nothing in return. You cannot afford another wasted sunrise. You cannot afford to postpone the man you were meant to become. Push yourself while you still can, while your legs still move, while your mind still burns, because the future is not promised to the man who waits. It belongs to the man who moves, who dares, who acts with urgency, not recklessness, but resolve. The one who wakes up each day and says, "This is the hour. This is the moment. This is the life I build." And if you live like that, fiercely, intentionally, you won't fear the ticking clock. You'll outrun it. Nothing changes until you do. You want your life to be different. You speak it, you dream it. You even complain about how things are now, about how they should be. But when the day begins, you go right back to the same habits, the same choices, the same thoughts that built the life you say you want to leave behind. You want change without sacrifice, growth without discomfort, results without revision. But that's not how reality works. The universe doesn't respond to wishes. It responds to identity. And identity is not what you say, it's what you do over and over again. You've been taught that change comes from outside, that it arrives like a package. Unexpected, miraculous, transformative. Maybe from a new job, a new relationship, a stroke of luck. But here's the truth most people avoid. Change doesn't happen to you, it happens within you. It's not an event, It's a shift, a restructuring of who you are from the ground up. Your life doesn't bend to your hopes, it mirrors your habits. It reflects the shape of your daily choices. If your identity stays the same, your outcomes will follow. So, how do you actually change? Not in fantasy, but in form. You start where you are, with what you control, your thoughts, your routines, your standards. You observe the stories you've been telling yourself. I'm not ready. I'm not good enough. I'll always be like this. And you call them out for what they are, chains. You challenge them, replace them. You begin building a new mind, one small truth at a time. You start to act not as who you've been, but as who you intend to become. And over time, your life begins to shift. You no longer react, you rebuild. You begin to notice new options, take bolder actions, and demand more from yourself and your surroundings. And that's when people say you've changed. But you didn't change by accident. You became someone else on purpose. Picture this. A man plants the same seed every morning. Corn, corn, corn. Yet he prays for strawberries. That's what most people are doing. They repeat the same mental patterns, the same habits, the same complaints, and then they beg the world to deliver something new. But you don't get strawberries from corn. You reap what you consistently sow. If you want a new fruit, you need a new seed, a new mindset, a new decision. You must change what's beneath the surface if you want new growth above it. Ask yourself honestly, what behaviors are you clinging to that keep you small? What narratives are you replaying that guarantee the same results? You don't need more luck. You don't need the world to hand you a miracle. What you need is courage. Courage to disrupt your comfort. Courage to reject the familiar. Courage to look in the mirror and say, this version of me must die so something stronger can live. It won't be easy. Nothing worthwhile is. But when you change, really change, your life doesn't just shift at the edges. It transforms from the inside out. So stop trimming the branches. Go to the root. Push yourself. Refuse to repeat the past. Become the man who earns the life he wants. Because when you change everything. Success belongs to the consistent greatness, does not fall from the sky. It is not awarded to the man with the loudest voice, the best ideas, or even the sharpest mind. It belongs to the man who shows up every single day. The man who puts one foot in front of the other when it would be easier to stay still. The man who picks up the hammer not once, not twice, but again and again until the job is done. That's who wins. That's who becomes unstoppable. Because talent fades, motivation weakens, inspiration comes and goes. But consistency compounds. It's slow, it's quiet, it's often invisible, and that's why most people ignore it. But it's the most powerful force available to you. You want success, but have you earned it with your habits? You dream of achievement, of recognition, of transformation, but how often do you actually show up when it's hard? How often do you keep your promises when nobody's watching? That's the test. The man who is consistent doesn't need applause to keep going. He doesn't need to feel like it to do the work. He doesn't need external fuel because he's already lit the fire within. He shows up in the rain. He shows up in the dark. He shows up when every part of him says stop. And that's why he breaks through while others fade out. Consistency is not exciting. It's not glamorous. It's repetitive. And yes, it's boring, but it's the grind that builds empires. It's the slow pressure that turns coal into diamond, day by day, brick by brick. A little progress repeated endlessly becomes something massive. That's the secret no one talks about. People are too obsessed with the breakthrough moment, the flashy success story, the overnight victory. But every overnight success was years in the making, years of doing the same work without reward, of repeating without recognition, of enduring without escape. So how do you become consistent? You stop negotiating with yourself. You remove maybe from your vocabulary. You set a standard and you honor it, no matter what mood you're in. Consistency doesn't care how you feel. It only asks one thing. Will you show up today? Will you sit down and write? Will you train even when your body aches? Will you push even when there's no fire left? If your answer is yes, and if that yes becomes your habit, then there's nothing you can't build. Imagine a man with an axe. He walks into the forest and swings once. Then he leaves. The tree stands tall. Another man swings the same axe. Not once, but daily. He doesn't talk about it. He doesn't post about it. He just shows up and swings, day after day. At first, nothing happens. Then a dent. Then a crack. And one morning, the tree falls. Not because of a final heroic strike, but because of all the strife. That's what success really looks like. Built in silence, revealed in time. So ask yourself, have you been swinging the axe daily or only when it's convenient? Do you move with discipline or only with motivation? Motivation is temporary. It's emotional. It fades. But commitment, that's character. That's power. That's how you break through. You don't need another burst of inspiration. What you need is relentless consistency. You need to push yourself when the fire is gone, when the sky is gray, when no one's watching, because that's where winners are forged. Not in the spotlight, but in the shadows. The man who starts strong is easy to find, but the man who finishes with his head down, his hands dirty, and his soul intact, is rare. Be that man. Be the one who walks forward every day, no matter the weather, no matter the mood. Let others burn out with excitement. Let them quit when it's no longer fun. You keep going, and that's why you win. You must raise your standards. Your life will never rise higher than your standards. That's not just a motivational phrase. It's a law. Not your goals, not your dreams, not even your vision determines your future. Your standards do. Because a goal is optional. A dream is distant. But a standard? A standard is the line you refuse to cross, the bare minimum you will no longer accept. It's not about what you hope for. It's about what you demand from yourself every single day. You can talk about success all you want, but none of that means anything if your daily life is still ruled by low standards. If you continue to tolerate mediocrity, you will continue to live in it. If you keep entertaining weak habits, those habits will become your identity. Life will not rise to meet your hopes. It will reflect your minimums. And if your minimums are low, so will be your results. Raising your standards is not about performance. It's about identity. It's about deciding who you refuse to be anymore. It's about drawing a line in the sand and saying, that version of me is done. It's not glamorous. It's not dramatic. It's not even always visible. But it is transformational, because the moment you decide that certain behaviors, thoughts, excuses, and patterns are no longer acceptable, you shift the trajectory of your life, not through dreams, but through discipline. So what does it really mean to raise your standards? It means you stop making space for weakness. You stop negotiating with laziness. You stop letting your feelings dictate your follow-through. You choose excellence, even when it's inconvenient, even when no one is watching. You start to treat the small things as sacred. You hold yourself to a higher level, not because someone's grading you, but because you refuse to betray the man you know you're capable of becoming. Think of a man who no longer needs to be told what to do. He irons his shirt not for compliments, but because he refuses to present himself like he doesn't care. He reads not to impress others, but because ignorance repels him. He trains his body not for show, but because weakness offends him. He doesn't just seek discipline, he expects it from himself. That man doesn't need motivation. He runs on standards. And because of that, life begins to respond differently to him. Opportunities recognize him, people respect him, doors open, not because he's lucky, but because he has become someone who deserves. Now ask yourself, what are you tolerating that's quietly killing your potential? What attitudes do you let slide because it's just who you are? What excuses have you rehearsed so many times that they sound like truth? This is the uncomfortable mirror you must look into, because you cannot change what you won't confront, and you cannot rise while still making peace with the very things holding you down. Raising your standards isn't just about pushing harder, it's about expecting more from yourself in every area. Your discipline, your honesty, your effort, your mindset. It's about eliminating the gap between who you are and who you pretend to be. It's about making excellence your default, not your distant ambition. When that shift happens, life begins to bend around your expectations. People treat you differently, you speak differently, you act with conviction, and the results begin to echo your new identity. You don't rise by accident, you rise by decision, by daily declarations of what is no longer acceptable. And no, it won't be easy, but that's the price of greatness. That's the cost of building a life worth living, because once your standards rise, once you say never again to the laziness, the inconsistency, the self-betrayal, your life has no choice but to follow. Your habits rise, your mindset sharpens, your outcomes shift, not because the world changed, but because you did. Raise your standards, not someday, but now, because every day you delay is another day you train yourself to settle. And if you keep settling, you'll never know what you could have been. Be the man who decides. Be the man who refuses average. Be the man who raises the standard and never lowers it again. That is the man the world cannot ignore. Pressure reveals the truth about you. When life is calm, when the skies are clear and the path is straight, everyone seems composed. Everyone looks disciplined. Everyone talks like they're built for greatness. But those moments, those easy stretches of time, are not where real strength is revealed. They are illusions of control, not confirmations of it. Your true character, your real power, isn't measured when things are going your way. It's exposed when everything falls apart, when there is no cheer, no certainty, no comfort, when you're deep in the storm and there's nowhere to hide. That's when you meet the real you. Anyone can hold their head high when life's giving them applause. Anyone can talk about mindset when nothing's testing it. But who are you when the applause disappears? Who are you when the plan breaks, the path disappears, and doubt begins to whisper? When the results don't come? When the support dries up? When the fire is hot and relentless? That's when you find out if your discipline was real or just decorated. That's when you discover whether you've trained your mind or simply entertained the idea of strength. Pressure doesn't break you, it exposes you. It peels back the surface. It removes the mask. It shows whether your habits were built on convenience or commitment. It reveals whether your vision is just talk or something deeper, something wired into your bones. You don't rise to the level of your potential when things get hard. You fall to the level of your preparation. The ones who thrive under pressure, the ones who don't fold when life pushes back, aren't lucky. They're trained. They didn't wait for pressure to test them. They tested themselves first. So how do you become that kind of person? How do you build a mind that doesn't bend? You don't wait for crisis. You simulate it. You lean into discomfort before life throws it at you. You rehearse calm in chaos. You choose to do the hard things daily, not because you have to, but because you must. You show up even when no one's watching. You practice stillness when your emotions flare. You breathe deep when the pressure rises. Imagine a man in the middle of a storm. The sky is black, the winds roar, trees snap like twigs, the world around him trembles. But he doesn't. He doesn't scream, he doesn't panic, he doesn't run. He anchors down, he tightens his grip. His heart may race, but his actions remain steady. That is power. That is control. Not the absence of fear, but the ability to act in spite of it. What does pressure reveal about you? Do you break or bend? Do you rise or retreat? Do you panic or do you prepare? When life gets loud, do you get louder or do you get clearer? These are the questions that define you, not the ones you answer in peace, but the ones you answer in war. And make no mistake, life will test you. It will bring storms without warning. It will strip away your comfort and demand your and when that day comes, you won't have time to build yourself. You'll only have time to reveal what was already built. That's why you push yourself now, not someday, not when it's convenient, not when the schedule opens up or the motivation shows up. You do it now. You train in silence so you don't crumble in chaos. You push when it's quiet, so you stand tall when the noise comes. While others are looking for the exit, you become the one who endures. While they collapse, you collect yourself. You become the one who doesn't need calm to remain calm, the one who doesn't need validation to feel certain, the one who doesn't need easy to keep going. And here's the truth. Once you master your mind under pressure, once you prove to yourself that you don't fold, nothing can be taken from you. Not fear, not failure, not delay. Because you're no longer controlled by what happens, you're controlled by what you've trained. You don't wait for permission. You don't wait for clarity. You act, you lead, you endure. So let the storms come. Let the winds rise. Let the world throw everything it has at you. You won't just survive. You'll sharpen because you've already done the work. You've already built the mind that can hold the weight. You've already become the man who doesn't flinch. Pressure is not the enemy. It is the mirror. It shows you what you really are. Train for it. So when it comes, you own it. You cannot build greatness with weak habits. The man who truly wants greatness must first go to war, not with the world, but with himself. The battle doesn't begin in the spotlight. It doesn't begin on the stage or in front of an audience. It begins in the silence, in the solitude, in the quiet corners of a man's life where no one is watching and no one will ever applaud. This is where weakness lives, and if you don't destroy it there, it will destroy you everywhere else. Weakness is subtle, it's deceptive, it hides not in the grand moments, but in the details, in the small, forgettable decisions you make day after day, the way you hit snooze instead of rising with purpose, the way you tell yourself just this once while letting your standards erode. You think those moments don't matter, but they do. Everything matters, because each tiny compromise becomes a thread in the fabric of your identity. And before long, the man in the mirror is not the one you dreamed of becoming, but the one you quietly settled for. You say you want success. You speak of discipline, of ambition, of rising to the top. But what are your habits saying? What is your life actually doing behind the words? Are you moving like a man with a mission? Or are you floating, waiting, hoping something will click? You can fool the world for a while, but you can't fool the life you're building, because your habits are the architects of your destiny, and they are always working, either for you or against you. Greatness isn't accidental. It's constructed, one quiet choice at a time. You have to treat your life like a craftsman treats a cathedral. Imagine him, stone by stone, hour by hour, measuring, testing, refining. He doesn't rush. He places each piece with precision because he knows the integrity of the whole depends on the strength of the parts. He knows that one weak brick in the wrong place can bring down the entire structure. That's how you must treat your life. Your habits are your bricks. Your patterns are your beams. If you don't examine them, if you don't question them, if you don't forge them with intent, you will build something fragile, and fragile things do not survive pressure. So look closely at the way you live, not just on your best days, but on your worst, not just in front of others, but when no one is watching. Are your habits sculpting strength, or are they shaping softness? Are your choices building a foundation that can carry the weight of your ambition, or are they silently corroding your potential? Ask yourself with ruthless honesty, what habits are weakening your foundation? What patterns are draining your focus, your energy, your edge? What small indulgences have become silent assassins, killing your momentum day by day? These are not questions for comfort, they are questions for transformation, because you will never rise higher than the structure you've built beneath you. And that structure is built from the discipline of your habits. If you want strength, you must build it. Not wish for it, not talk about it. Build it. And that begins by replacing comfort with discipline. Replace the quick dopamine hit with long-term vision. Replace the easy path with the hard truth. Replace distraction with focus. That means you choose the cold shower, you choose the extra rep. You choose the book over the scroll, not because it feels good now, but because you're building something that will endure when others collapse. Most people never become great because they never confront the quiet weakness of their daily life. They think greatness is in the spotlight, but it's not. It's in the shadows. It's in the hour you wake. It's in the posture you carry. It's in the way you hold yourself to a standard when no one's watching. That's where champions are made. Not on the field, but in the furnace. Push yourself. Not once, not for a day, but consistently, ruthlessly. Watch your habits like a hawk. Audit them, strengthen them, mold them with intention, because the man who builds strong habits becomes a man the world cannot move. Your future is not somewhere you stumble into, it's something you build. And you build it with habits, one decision at a time, one moment at a time. So make each choice count. Refuse softness. Destroy weakness. Become the man whose habits match his vision, because if your habits rise, your life will rise with them. And once that foundation is strong, nothing can shake you. The world respects the man who endures endurance, is power, quiet, steady, often unseen, but more formidable than talent, louder than ambition, and stronger than any short-lived burst of motivation. It's the power that lives in the man who doesn't stop. The one who walks through storms, not because he enjoys them, but because he has decided that nothing, not pain, not rejection, not fatigue, has the authority to stop him. The man who endures becomes unbreakable, not because life was easier for him, but because he kept moving when everything screamed at him to stop. Most people give up too early. They come to the edge of struggle and treat it like a sign to turn back, not a gate to walk through. They want the results, but not the resistance. They want the crown without the climb. But life doesn't hand out trophies for trying. It tests you, it stretches you, and it waits to see who has the spine to keep going. Not just when it's fun, not just when applause is loud, but when everything is hard and lonely and slow. Those are the moments that separate the real from the temporary. Endurance is not a gift, it is a skill, a muscle, something you build through pain, repetition, and refusal. It begins the moment you stop expecting ease. You must stop being shocked when life resists you. Of course it will. That's its job. It will take from you. It will hit you where it hurts. It will ask again and again, are you sure you want this? And most will say no, most will fold. But those who expect resistance, who anticipate the trial, they are never surprised by the weight. They were already lifting before the burden came. Imagine a man pushing a cart up a steep hill. He's alone. There is no cheering, there is no help. The road is uneven, jagged, and unforgiving. He pushes, and the cart slips. It rolls backward, the wheel breaks, the man falls. But he doesn't curse the hill. He doesn't sit and wait for someone to carry the cart for him. He gets back up. He fixes what's broken. He pushes again, and again, and again, until one day, quietly and without fanfare, he reaches the top. Not because he was the strongest, not because he had the best cart, but because he refused to quit pushing. Now ask yourself, have you endured or have you escaped? When the path got steep, did you dig deeper or find a way out? Have you built stamina or have you settled for speed? Most chase shortcuts. Most want quick. But what you build quickly rarely lasts. Endurance is not about speed, it's about staying power. It's about showing up again after disappointment, after betrayal, after failure, and saying, still, I move. There's a reason the world respects those who've endured. It's not just because they made it, but because of what it cost them. Because every scar, every sleepless night, every lonely battle carved a deeper level of resilience into their bones. These are the people who are feared, not because they're ruthless, but because they won't go away. You can't break them. You can't outlast them. They've already been through more than you can imagine and kept going. To endure is to win in slow motion, to become unstoppable without ever shouting. It is the quiet declaration that nothing owns you, not your past, not your pain, not your failures. It is rising when nothing rises with you. It is walking alone when no one shows up. It is fighting again when you have every reason not to. And yes, endurance is ugly. It doesn't look like the movies. It looks like exhaustion, like tears behind closed doors, like late nights and early mornings, and zero recognition. But that's why it's so rare and why it's so powerful. Because once you endure what others cannot, you gain what others never will. So push yourself, not just once, not just when the sun is out. Push yourself when everything breaks, when it's dark, when you're tired, when nothing makes sense. Refuse to surrender. Refuse to sit down. Let the world see what persistence looks like in its rawest form, because the man who endures becomes a force no obstacle can outlast. In the end, life bends not to the talented, but to the relentless. Not to the fast, but to the consistent. Endurance doesn't ask how you feel, it asks whether you'll keep moving anyway. So keep moving, keep pushing, keep enduring, because that's how you win. Action is the cure to fear. Fear is a parasite. It feeds on hesitation. It thrives in the silence between your thoughts and your actions. The longer you wait, the more it multiplies. The more you sit still, the more it whispers and twists and grows claws around your potential. Fear is not always loud. It doesn't always scream. Sometimes it just hums in the background, subtle and convincing, wrapping you in the lie that now is not the right time, that you need to think more, wait longer, feel ready. But that feeling never comes. Not the way you expect it to. Because fear doesn't leave when you think. It only leaves when you move. You've been conditioned to believe that courage is something you're supposed to feel first. That bravery comes knocking before you act. That you wait until the nerves settle, until the anxiety fades, until the perfect moment presents itself like a neatly wrapped gift. But that belief is a trap. That belief has killed more dreams than failure ever has. Because courage isn't a precondition, it's a result. It's not the fire that pushes you forward, it's the flame that ignites, because you took the first step. You want to conquer fear? Stop talking to it. Stop waiting for it to soften. Fear doesn't negotiate, it doesn't bargain, it feeds on delay. You don't get past it by understanding it. You get past it by outrunning it. You overwhelm it with motion. You bury it under momentum. You take that small trembling step and then another, until fear has no room to breathe. That's how you kill it. Think about what's stopping you right now. Is it a memory of a time you failed? A voice in your head telling you you're not good enough? Is it someone else's judgment or some imagined humiliation if things don't go perfectly? None of that is real unless you give it power. Stay still, you give it more. Fear is not a wall. It only looks like one when you're standing still. The moment you lean in, the moment you reach out, you realize it's just smoke, just illusion. It has no structure, no spine, no strength, unless you supply it. Picture a man standing before a mountain. He stares at the summit, high and jagged, lost in clouds. He sees the risks, the falls, the unknown, and fear rises. His heart races, his legs hesitate. Every thought in his mind screams for safety. But then something shifts. He doesn't conquer the mountain with a scream or a leap. He simply steps forward, one foot, then another. Not fast, not perfect, but forward. And with every step, the fear that once felt massive begins to shrink. He no longer has time to overthink. He is breathing, climbing, moving, and suddenly, fear is no longer his companion. Momentum is. That's what action does. It doesn't just silence fear, it replaces it. It gives your body something to focus on. It gives your mind a new rhythm. It brings your attention away from the endless what-ifs and into the reality of what's next. Action anchors you to now. And fear can't survive in the now. It only lives in the maybe, the later, the soon. Kill that. Replace it with today. Ask yourself, what fear are you feeding with inaction? What mountain have you been staring at for weeks, months, maybe years without taking a single step? And what would happen, honestly, if you just moved? Not leapt, not conquered, just moved. You think the first step must be perfect, grand, decisive. It doesn't. It just has to happen. Because that first step is not about progress. It's about breaking fear's rhythm, interrupting its hold, proving to yourself that you can act, even while afraid. And the truth is, fear never fully disappears. But you learn to walk with it, to stop bowing to it. You train your mind to keep going even when doubt rides beside you. Because the man who waits for fear to leave will never build anything. But the man who acts in spite of fear, he becomes unstoppable. Not because he never felt fear, but because he refused to let it sit in the driver's seat. So push yourself to act. Not tomorrow, not when it's more comfortable, today, even if your hands shake, even if your voice cracks, even if your legs feel heavy, just move. Because once you do, you'll discover something ancient and powerful. That fear was never real, it was never stone, never steel, it was only smoke. And the fire was always in you. Your environment shapes your mind, guard it. You may be strong, you may be disciplined, focused, even relentless in your ambition, but no man is immune to his environment. It seeps in, quietly, consistently, without asking permission. What surrounds you shapes you. The conversations you hear, the energy you absorb, the people you allow into your space, they leave fingerprints on your mind whether you notice them or not. Strength means nothing if you're constantly drowning in noise that dulls it. Discipline fades when surrounded by those who mock it. Fire dies slowly in a room full of wet blankets. Most men drift through life with their gates wide open. They let in everything and everyone, every opinion, every distraction, every shallow voice. They think they're being open-minded, but what they're really doing is surrendering their soil to anything that walks by. And then they wonder why they feel scattered, unfocused, unmotivated. A man on a mission cannot afford to live that way. He must be intentional about every voice, every vibration, every piece of input that enters his mind. Because the truth is, your environment is not passive. It's a force, a shaper, a sculptor. If you spend your days among the lazy, the faithless, the small-minded, don't be surprised when their thoughts start becoming yours. If you surround yourself with people who tolerate mediocrity, you'll soon start finding excuses for your own. Energy is contagious. Doubt is contagious. So is discipline. So is courage. But only if you make room for them. You must treat your environment like a battlefield. You must audit it, ruthlessly, without apology. Not someday, not later, now. You must ask yourself, what am I allowing into my world that is pulling me backward? Who around me encourages delay, discourages growth, waters the weeds instead of the roots? Whose voice do I hear more than my own, and is it helping or harming me? And when the answer is clear, you act. You don't justify, you don't explain, you remove what doesn't serve your direction, you tighten your circle until it reflects your mission, your mindset, your values. You stop sharing your energy with people who don't respect it. You stop debating with people who aren't even trying to grow. You stop being available to the opinions of those who aren't building anything, because every time you allow them into your space, you weaken your edge. Picture a farmer growing rare fruit that can't be found anywhere else. He doesn't just scatter the seeds and hope. He protects the soil. He clears the weeds. He watches for pests. He builds fences and guards the crop because he knows the value of what he's growing. He knows that one bad storm, one careless infestation can ruin an entire season. So he becomes a guardian, not just a grower. You must become the same. You are growing something rare. Maybe it's a vision no one else sees. Maybe it's discipline in a world that glorifies ease. Maybe it's faith in a time of cynicism. Whatever it is, it's precious. And it cannot thrive in toxic soil. It cannot blossom in polluted air. You must protect the conditions that feed your growth with the same intensity you bring to your goals. So ask yourself, what have you let into your mental garden that should have been cast out long ago? What conversations have you accepted as truth when they were only fear in disguise? What noise have you mistaken for wisdom just because it was loud? These are not small questions. They are the ones that determine whether your path will lead to transformation or stagnation. To be truly powerful, you must be selective. Not arrogant, not dismissive, but aware. You must treat your mental space as sacred, because it is. Everything flows from there. Your choices, your emotions, your habits. If the foundation is poisoned, don't be surprised when the structure collapses. That's why you must shape your surroundings like a sculptor-shaped stone, every inch deliberate, every detail examined, every addition questioned. Because greatness does not grow by accident. It grows in the quiet, curated space where nothing exists but vision, focus, and fire. Push yourself to protect that space. Stop being casual with your attention. Stop handing out access to people who haven't earned it. Start curating your life like a work of art, because that's what it is. Build walls, not to hide, but to fortify. Plant gardens, not to impress, but to nourish. Choose allies who speak life, not doubt, who fuel the fire, not fan the fear, because your mind is not just a tool, it's the temple. And no matter how strong you think you are, if the temple is defiled, the fire will eventually die. So guard it, shape it, build it, and let no one in who threatens what you're becoming. Build inner fortitude. Don't rely on motivation. Motivation is fleeting. It's a flicker, a spark that lights up for a moment and fades before you can hold on to it. One day it roars in your chest, and the next it vanishes like smoke in the wind. If you depend on it, you will always live in cycles. Starting strong, stopping short, beginning again, only to quit when the feeling dies. That's the trap most men fall into. They wait to feel ready. They wait for energy, for clarity, for some invisible push to ignite their drive. But the men who build something lasting, empires, legacies, unshakable strength, don't wait to feel like it. They move anyway. They understand a truth most avoid. Motivation is a luxury. Discipline is a necessity. There will be mornings when your eyes are heavy, when your limbs protest, when your heart isn't in it. Afternoons when everything in you wants to give up, when your passion feels buried beneath exhaustion or doubt. There will be days when you don't feel powerful or certain or inspired. And in those moments, the question is not what do you feel like doing, the question is what did you say you would do? Because that's the difference. That's the line. The weak move when it's easy. The strong move because they decided. That is the backbone of real power, inner fortitude. It's not about external hype or momentary excitement. It's about showing up when there's no audience, no fanfare, no energy, just you, the silence, and the weight of your word. And the only thing standing between you and regret is your ability to act anyway. So how do you build that kind of strength? You start by keeping promises to yourself, small ones first. You say, I'll train today, and you do it. Even if it's raining, even if you're tired, even if your mind tries to bargain for rest. You say, I'll write, and you write, even if it's only one sentence, even if you hate every word. The point is not perfection, it's repetition. Every time you follow through, especially when it's hard, you etch a line of steel into your character. Each act of discipline tightens your spine. Each choice builds the architecture of a man who does not flinch. Imagine a soldier on the battlefield. The rain is relentless. Mud weighs down every step. The noise is deafening, the mission brutal, but he doesn't pause to ask if he's in the mood. He doesn't wait for clarity. He marches. Because his commitment is stronger than his comfort. Because the mission is bigger than his mood. And you must ask yourself, can you move like that? Are you only productive when inspired? Do you only act when the wind is behind you? Or do you move forward regardless because your word means more than your feeling? This is where most men fail. They think discipline is just a routine, but it's not. It's a belief system, a way of life. It's the decision to become someone who honors their own word no matter how small the task, no matter how quiet the result. And when you live that way, something inside of you changes. You stop needing motivation. You stop chasing perfect conditions. You stop waiting for the world to help you out. You become self-directed, purpose-led. You become a man with internal gravity, a force that pulls you forward, no matter what the day brings. That is a rare power, because the man who no longer relies on motivation becomes unshakable. He cannot be stopped by a bad mood, a bad day, or a lack of applause. He simply moves, and in moving, he changes everything. This kind of discipline does not scream. It doesn't announce itself. It works in silence, in repetition, in lonely moments where no one is watching, and yet it transforms a man from average to exceptional. It builds a foundation so solid that storms don't shake it. It creates habits so ingrained that even fear bows in their presence. That's what you're capable of. If you stop waiting for motivation to carry you and start becoming the man who moves without it. Let others chase feelings. Let them postpone progress until their heart feels right. You build your strength in the absence of emotion. You do the work when it's dry, when it's dull, when it's the last thing you want to do, because that's when it matters. That's when it counts. That's when your future is being carved. Quietly, without fanfare, one disciplined act at a time. Push yourself beyond motivation. Let that be someone else's fuel. Yours is deeper. Yours is forged in commitment. Yours is written in grit. And that kind of fuel, that kind of drive, it doesn't burn out. It only grows. Be ruthless with excuses. Every excuse you keep is a chain, an invisible tether wrapped in comfort disguised as logic, whispered like a lullaby. It strokes your ego, tells you it understands, tells you you're doing your best, but in the same breath, it quietly robs you. Excuses are thieves with gentle hands. They don't storm in and ruin you. They lull you to sleep while your future slips out the back door. You say you don't have time, but look closer. How many hours have you spent numbing your mind with empty distractions, scrolling through meaningless updates, chasing conversations that go nowhere? You say you're too tired, but your energy still finds its way into things that don't build you, don't challenge you, don't serve you. Time isn't the problem. Energy isn't the problem. The problem is what you choose to protect. And most of the time, you protect your comfort at the cost of your calling. Excuses are not reasons, they're masks. Escape hatches for the undisciplined. Elegant justifications that allow you to avoid the hard thing without feeling guilty about it. They sound good. They sound logical. That's why they survive. But logic isn't truth. And when your life starts to decay from the inside out, it won't be because of a lack of talent or opportunity. It'll be because you dressed weakness in the clothes of reason and called it wisdom. The man who pushes himself, the one who builds something real, refuses to argue for his limitations. He doesn't debate whether his excuses are valid. He doesn't coddle his fatigue or elevate his fear. He faces the truth head on, brutal, unfiltered. He holds the mirror up and doesn't flinch. That's what makes him dangerous. Not that he has more time or less pain, but that he refuses to lie to himself. Excuses are clever. They wear many faces. I'm not ready. Now's not the right time. I don't know where to start. But underneath all of them, you will always find the same root: fear. Fear of effort. Fear of exposure. Fear of changing the version of yourself you've grown used to. That's the real reason most men never evolve. It's not that they lack potential. It's that they've become loyal to their excuses. So how do you kill those excuses? You expose them. Drag them out of the shadows. Question them like a hostile witness. Don't accept them at face value. Interrogate them. Ask yourself, is this actually true, or is it just easier to believe? You hold them in your hand like a weapon that's turned against you, and then you move. Not around them, through them. You do the opposite of what the excuse tells you. If it says rest, you work. If it says wait, you begin. If it says you can't, you prove that you can't. Picture this. A man stands at the base of a towering mountain. The climb is steep. The weather is unforgiving. One man looks down at his boots and says, they're not good enough. Another looks at the sky and says, it might rain. Another checks his age, his past, his pain, and says, I missed my chance. Then one man walks forward. No speech, no perfect plan, just bloody feet, bruised hands, and a relentless step. That's the man who changes things, not because he had no excuses, but because he burned them all. Now ask yourself, what's your excuse, and what has it already cost you? How many chances have you let slip because it was easier to delay? How many days have you lost waiting for a perfect moment that never arrived? What have your excuses stolen from your future, your health, your progress, your strength, your peace? If you want to build a life of power, of clarity, of purpose, You must declare war on your excuses. You must tear them down one by one. You must be ruthless, because excuses will not simply vanish. They grow like weeds. If you don't rip them out, they'll multiply, and soon they'll bury you. Not in one dramatic collapse, but slowly, silently, year after year, until one day you look around and realize your potential has rotted beneath your comfort. Tell the truth, not the version that makes you feel good, the one that makes you move. Stop shielding yourself from responsibility with phrases that sound intelligent but keep you small. Start treating your word like law. Start showing up not because you're ready, but because you refuse to give your excuses another inch. Because this is the truth most won't say aloud. Your life is not held back by a lack of motivation or resources or guidance. It's held back by the lies you keep telling yourself. And until you burn those lies to the ground, nothing will change. No strategy will save you. No goal will lift you. So light the match and let your excuses burn. Purpose is the only fuel that lasts. Without purpose, you will fall. Not always suddenly, not always with a loud crash. Sometimes it's a slow drift, a quiet collapse, a silent erosion of drive and direction. One morning you rise with fire, the next you move like fog. One day you care, the next you can't explain why you're even trying. Because effort without meaning dries out. It becomes a burden, a chore, a performance without a script. And eventually, even the strongest man breaks under the weight of empty action. Purpose is the only thing that keeps the flame alive when everything else goes cold. Don't mistake purpose for a motivational slogan. Don't confuse it with a goal on a list or a dream scribbled in the back of your journal. Purpose is not decorative, it's foundational. It is the fire that burns beneath your discipline, the engine beneath your actions. When your body is tired, when your mind is fractured, when the results are nowhere to be seen, purpose is what makes you take the next step anyway. Not because it's easy, not because it's fun, but because it matters. The man with purpose moves differently. He walks into the day with certainty. He trains with intensity, not for attention, but because something inside of him demands it. He doesn't need applause. He doesn't need eyes on him to validate his effort. He moves with conviction. Every rep, every word, every decision is a brick in something greater. He is building more than a routine. He's building a legacy. He doesn't chase shortcuts because he understands that depth can't be rushed. He works as though every detail holds weight because to him it does. Purpose makes pain tolerable, not because the pain lessens, but because it's no longer empty. When you suffer without a reason, the suffering feels like punishment. But when you suffer for something, the same suffering becomes fuel. It deepens your resolve. It sharpens your vision. That's why the man with purpose can outlast everyone else, not because he's immune to pain, but because his pain has a place, a reason, a direction. So how do you find this purpose? You don't find it in the noise. Not in the advice of others, not in comparison, not in the world's definition of success. You find it in the silence. You find it by sitting alone with your own truth. No filters, no distractions, just you and the question that cuts through all illusions. What am I willing to suffer for? Not what you want, not what looks good on a vision board. What are you willing to bleed for? What do you believe in so deeply that discomfort becomes irrelevant? Because that is where your purpose lives. It lives in the thing that you can't walk away from, even when it hurts. The thing that keeps you up at night. Not with anxiety, but with urgency. It's the reason you rise before the sun, the reason you keep moving even when the path is uphill and the reward is invisible. Imagine this, 2 men building a wall. One is paid by the hour. He waits for instruction. He checks the clock. He does the minimum. The other isn't working for a wage. He's working for a vision. He sees beyond the bricks. He sees the castle in the dust. Every stone he lifts is sacred. Every moment matters. One is surviving, the other is creating. That is the difference purpose makes. So ask yourself, why do you rise each morning? Is it for show, for approval, for fear of falling behind? Or is it for something deeper, something solid enough to hold you steady when everything else shakes? Purpose gives your life a center, a spine, a compass. When others are lost in distraction, you stay the course. When others seek comfort, you embrace challenge, not because you're better, but because your vision leaves no room for mediocrity. And when the world tells you to slow down, to back off, to play small, you look inside and remember the reason you began. Push yourself to connect with that purpose. Don't just write it down, live it. Let it bleed into everything you do. Let it guide your steps and strengthen your will. Let it become the standard that all your actions must answer to, because when your purpose is clear, your path is lit, even in the dark. When your purpose is rooted, your sword is sharp, even in battle. The man without purpose burns out, but the man with purpose, he burns through distraction, through failure, through exhaustion, through fear. He becomes unstoppable, not because he's always strong, but because his reason is stronger than his resistance. And that is how you rise. Not once, every day. Stop. Begging for confidence, earn it confidence, is not something handed to you. It isn't gifted through praise or built by the soft pat on the back of encouragement. It's forged in fire, in repetition, in the quiet spaces where no one is watching. It's earned, not through noise, but through action, through conquest, not compliments. You don't wake up with belief in yourself because someone said you should. You wake up with belief in yourself because you know what you've done. You've fought, you've followed through, you've bled and finished. And that history, your own private ledger of discipline and resilience, is the root of real confidence. Most men walk through life starving for permission to believe in themselves. They look around, searching for approval. They ask, "Do you think I can?" as if the world's opinion can replace their own record of proof. But that question must die. It is weakness disguised as humility. Replace it with a command, "Watch me prove it." Because in the end, no one truly believes in the man who doubts himself. They may smile, they may nod, but belief is reserved for the man who has already proven he doesn't need it. And once you become that man, once you start moving without permission, you'll discover something powerful. No one can doubt you when you no longer doubt yourself. Confidence is not loud. It's not arrogant. It doesn't have to announce itself. Confidence is built in the quiet, in the shadows. It grows in the morning when you rise before the sun, in the gym when your body screams for rest and you keep going, in the work you do, long after the motivation fades. It's carved into you through consistency, when you show up again and again and again, not because it's easy, but because you said you would. That is where real power lives, not in how you feel, but in what you do. You don't need to take over the world to build confidence. You don't start with grand victories. You start small. You start by keeping promises to yourself. You say you'll rise early, and you do. You say you'll train, and you do. You say you'll read, write, study, build, and you do. One act, then another, then another. Each one is a brick. Each one is a declaration. And soon, your actions begin to speak louder than your insecurities. The more you follow through, the quieter your doubts become. And then one day, you look in the mirror and you don't see potential, you see proof. That proof becomes armor. Not flashy, not boastful, but unshakable. Picture a man who stands tall. Not because people applauded, not because he was born with gifts, but because he endured. He's not loud. He's not seeking validation. He doesn't need to convince anyone. He's been through the storm. He's taken the hits. He's kept his word when it would have been easier to quit. His confidence doesn't come from what he says. It comes from what he's done. He's survived every battle life threw at him. That's why he stands tall. That's why he doesn't flinch. Do you feel weak? Then act strong. Don't wait to feel better. Be better. Confidence isn't a mood. It's a byproduct of discipline. You think men who appear confident were born that way? No, they became that way through years of small wins, through choices made in the dark, through the steady refusal to break when others bent. Every time you act strong while feeling unsure, you build the foundation of a stronger self. Do you feel uncertain? Then stop spinning in your head and start proving something. To yourself, not to the world. Today, not someday, not when it's easier. Do something hard. Do something uncomfortable. Do something that proves to your own soul that you are not here to quit, not here to fold, not here to settle. The man who keeps showing up, keeps honoring his word, keeps stacking quiet victories, that man becomes unshakable. Because no matter what the world throws at him, he's already proven that he'll stand, that he'll do the work, that he'll endure. And it's not about being the best, it's about being solid, reliable, grounded in action. That's what confidence truly is. A deep, unspoken knowledge that you can trust yourself because your past proves it. So don't chase the feeling, chase the follow-through, chase the reps, chase the fire that comes from doing what you said you'd do, especially when it's hard. Confidence will come, not all at once, not in a moment, but over time, quietly, steadily, like a storm that doesn't scream, but surrounds. You don't need to talk about it, you need to live it. And once you do, you'll never need to ask anyone if they believe in you again, because your actions will answer the question, loudly, permanently, and without apology. The fire you need is already in you. You don't need more advice. You've heard enough. You don't need more time. You've had plenty. And you don't need another chance, another push, or another person to believe in you. What you need, what you've always needed, is to realize that everything you're searching for, everything you're begging for from the world, has been within you this whole time. The fire, the strength, the clarity, the grit. It's all already there. Not in a book, not in someone's approval, inside you. But you've forgotten that, haven't you? You've been living like your power is somewhere else, like it's waiting to be unlocked by the perfect routine, the right opportunity, or the right set of words spoken by someone more successful than you. And the whole time, you've been walking around with the match in your pocket. The spark's already in you, but you've let it stay buried under doubt, hesitation, and the story you've been told about who you are supposed to be. The fire you seek isn't out there. It never was. You've just been trained to believe it is. Conditioned to think someone else has to give it to you, that you need permission, that you must be chosen. But understand this, you were already chosen. Life itself chose you the moment you were born. The very fact that you're breathing, thinking, and capable of choice means you've been handed the one thing most people take for granted, a chance to become something unstoppable. But you forgot. Somewhere along the way, the world tamed you. They told you to be polite, to calm down, to be practical. You started to believe the lie that safety equals success, that comfort equals happiness, that certainty is better than challenge. So you traded your fire for routine. You traded your potential for acceptance. You went from being a force to being a shadow, and now you wonder why you feel empty. You weren't born weak. You weren't born passive. You were born with a spine, a will, and a soul wired to struggle and win. That fire inside you, maybe it's dimmed, maybe you've ignored it, maybe it's covered by layers of excuses and disappointment, but it isn't gone. It's never gone. It waits. It waits for the moment you finally stop pretending to be helpless. It waits for the day you stop acting like a victim of your circumstances and start acting like the architect of your life. So how do you find that fire again? You don't wait for it. You dig. You claw through the false narratives. You strip away the comfortable lies. You stop looking at the clock. You stop waiting for the right time. And you do. You do something hard every single day. Not to impress anyone, not to check a box, but to wake up the warrior that's been asleep inside you. You start keeping promises to yourself. No more delay. No more tomorrow. No more talking about it. If you say you'll do something, you do it. You push limits. You feel the resistance and lean into it. You let the struggle carve you, not break you. Sharpen you, because that's what struggle does when you stop running from it. It hones you into a weapon. Picture a man alone in the dark, cold, afraid, surrounded by silence and uncertainty. He has nothing to cling to, no support, no guidance, just his breath and his mind. But he reaches into his coat and finds a small spark, a flint, a match. He strikes it. It flickers for a second, just enough to see his own hand, just enough to warm the air around him. And in that moment, everything changes. Not because the fire was handed to him, but because he lit it himself. That's you, right now. You're holding the match, but will you strike it, or will you sit in the dark and hope someone comes along to light it for you? You have to choose. You can keep waiting, keep pretending, keep blaming everything outside yourself, or you can remember. Remember who you were before the world softened you, before you started filtering your words, your fire, your movement to fit in. Remember the version of you that wanted to build, to conquer, to rise, not the tired version, not the passive version, the warrior, the builder, the fire starter. He's still there, and he's waiting for you to wake him up. Because here's the truth. The world will not give you your fire. It's not going to deliver you purpose on a silver platter. No one is coming to rescue you from doubt. You carry what you need. You carry the flame. Always have. Push yourself to remember that. Push yourself to act like that. Don't beg for motivation. Don't scroll for inspiration. Look in the mirror. That's your reminder. That's your ignition. Start with one act, one decision, one promise kept. Strike the match, and then watch what happens when you stop waiting and start burning. You don't need more. You need to remember what's already yours. Confidence, fire, power. It's not out there. It's in your blood, in your bones, in your breath. You were always the fire starter. Now light the damn flame. Keep pushing when no one claps. You say you want to be great. You talk about it with conviction. You imagine the results, the rewards, the recognition. But the question is not whether you want greatness. The question is whether you can endure the process required to earn it. Can you keep pushing when no one sees? Can you keep showing up when there's no applause, no praise, no likes, no spotlight? Just silence, because that's where greatness lives, in the dark, in the quiet, in the repetition no one celebrates. Most people can sprint when the lights are on. Most people can shine when the audience is clapping, but most people stop when the noise fades. They work hard when they're noticed, then fade into comfort when they aren't. They say they want success, but what they really want is attention. They're addicted to being seen, not to becoming excellent. But the ones who rise, the ones who actually become something unshakable, they learn to keep working in the dark. They don't need eyes on them to validate their grind. They don't need public confirmation to keep their discipline intact. They work when it's lonely, when it's cold, when it's thankless. And that's where their edge comes from. Not talent, not luck, but consistency without audience. Your results won't come from the days you feel celebrated. They won't arrive after a standing ovation or a perfect day. They'll come from the mornings when you didn't feel like it, but still did it. The nights when your body wanted rest, but you chose to finish. The afternoons when the world forgot you, but you remembered your mission. These are the bricks that build a fortress no storm can touch. You want admiration? Earn it in silence. You want respect? Forge it in discipline. Let the world wonder how you got so far. Let them whisper about your strength, your focus, your unshakable foundation. Let them speculate. You won't need to explain, because you'll know you earned it alone. You didn't chase the crowd. You didn't need the applause. You built something real when no one was looking. And how do you train for this? How do you become the one who moves without being seen? You kill the craving for approval. You bury the need to be praised. You don't pretend that applause is worthless. It feels good, but you decide that it's not necessary, that you can move without it, that you can grow without someone telling you you're doing a good job. You make the work sacred. You fall in love with the process, not the performance, the effort, not the ego. You begin to understand something few ever do, that the reward is not the recognition. The reward is what you become in the process, stronger, sharper, clearer. The kind of person who doesn't flinch when it's hard. The kind of person who doesn't break when it's quiet. The kind of person who knows their power because it wasn't handed, it was carved, day by day in private. Picture this. A man digs a tunnel beneath stone, inch by inch, day by day. His hands are blistered. His muscles ache. No one sees him. No one applauds. No one believes in what he's doing. But he keeps going. He doesn't stop to prove his effort. He doesn't broadcast his struggle. He just digs. One day, a beam of light breaks through. He emerges into the open. The world sees the result and calls him an overnight success. They say he came out of nowhere, but he knows the truth. It took everything. It took years of sweat, silence, and sacrifice. It took a level of commitment that cannot be explained, only lived. Are you willing to be that man? Are you willing to be ignored while you build? Can you withstand the silence without falling into self-pity? Can you train when it's boring? Can you stay focused when no one's clapping? Because that's the price, and most aren't willing to pay it. But if you are, if you push yourself anyway, then you become something rare, something unstoppable. You stop waiting for cheers. You stop begging for validation. You stop needing the world to believe in you before you believe in yourself. You move with purpose. You execute without recognition. You let your results speak for you in time, and they will. The longer you go unseen, the more powerful your breakthrough becomes. Because when it comes, it won't be noise. It'll be thunder. The world won't just notice you, they'll feel you. But only because you put in the work they never saw. So keep digging, keep showing up, keep pushing, even in the silence, especially in the silence. Because that's where the real ones are made. Not on stages, but in solitude. Not through hype, but through hunger. You say you want to be great, prove it when no one's watching. Decide right now you're all in. There's a moment when everything changes. You may not notice it as it's happening. There's no drum roll, no triumphant music swelling in the background, no crowd watching, no cinematic moment to announce its arrival, but it happens just the same, and when it does, it marks the death of who you were and the birth of who you could be. It's quiet, yes, but it's final. It's the moment you decide, I'm all in. Most people never reach that moment. They flirt with the idea, They talk about commitment. They dress themselves in the language of discipline and desire, but deep down, they've always left the back door unlocked. They've kept a life raft nearby just in case. They say they want to transform, but they keep options open, always 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Always a little hesitation in their step. They don't jump. They lean, glance, tiptoe, and that's why they stay stuck. That's why change never takes root, because nothing lasting is built on maybe. If you want to become someone different, really become, you can't afford to live in the middle. The middle is the land of excuses, of broken promises, of comfort dressed as wisdom. The middle is the graveyard of potential, the place where dreams go to die slowly, and if you want to escape it, there's only one way out: commitment. Complete, unshakable, irrevocable. It starts with a decision, a real one, not the kind you announce with excitement only to abandon when the mood fades, not the kind you post about to feel accountable to strangers online. A decision that happens in private, that begins in your chest, in your bones, and echoes in everything you do from this point forward. A decision that says, I'm done being half-built, I'm done entertaining escape, I'm done with maybe, I go all in, or I don't go at all. Burn the bridge behind you. Tear down the safety nets. Let the old version of you dissolve. That version, the hesitant one, the cautious one, the one who always needed one more sign, is gone. You don't need more signs. You don't need more time. You need conviction. So, how do you step into that place? How do you live like you're all in? You start by facing your life as it is. You stop avoiding the uncomfortable truths. You take a cold, unflinching look at where you've been playing small, where you've been stalling under the illusion of being smart, being safe, you name the patterns. You admit where you've allowed fear to make your decisions, and then, without waiting for permission, you say enough. You tell yourself that the old way ends here, that from this point forward you are either all the way in or you're out. This decision is not just symbolic. It demands action. It demands change. You stop talking about goals and start executing. You stop waiting to feel ready and move anyway. You remove the language of hesitation from your vocabulary. Words like maybe, try, someday, we'll see, they no longer belong to you. You speak only in absolutes. You train, you build, you execute. Not once, not when it's convenient, daily. Because that is what all in means. It means your commitment is louder than your excuses. Picture a man standing at the edge of a cliff. The wind is howling. Below him lies the unknown. It's dark, uncertain, full of risk. Behind him is the old life, the one that kept him small, that kept him safe, that kept him unfulfilled. He doesn't have much time to think. He doesn't have the luxury of overanalyzing. He can leap or he can live with regret. He doesn't know where he'll land. He doesn't need to. He just knows he can't go back. So he tightens his jaw, steadies his breath, and jumps. Not because he's fearless, but because he's done waiting. That's what it means to be all in. To leap into effort without the promise of immediate reward. To trust that the strength you need will reveal itself only after you commit. And to understand that hesitation is the enemy. That every time you pause, stall, or backpedal, you're feeding the part of you that wants to stay small. So ask yourself honestly, what are you still clinging to that's keeping you stuck? What excuse, what fear, what false logic are you holding on to like it's protecting you? And how much longer are you willing to let it control your life? You already know what you need to do. You've known it for a long time. The only thing that's missing is the decision to do it fully. Not partially, not for a few days, not until it's hard. Fully, relentlessly, like your future depends on it, because it does. Push yourself to decide right now, not later, not after you think about it, not when the timing feels better. Right now. Tell yourself with clarity, I'm done with hesitation. I'm done with being half committed. I'm all in. Say it until it stops being words and starts becoming identity. And then act like it. Move like it. Live like it. Wake up every morning with that decision burning in your chest. Not for approval, not for applause, for you. Because the man who is all in doesn't need recognition. His results speak for him. His focus intimidates. His commitment reshapes his world. Once you decide truly, fully, deeply, you unlock a version of yourself the world has never seen. And once he's out, once he's awake, once he's in motion, nothing can stop him. Be that man, be all in, No one's coming to save you. No one's handing you your dream. It's on you. Every step forward, every inch gained will be because you pushed yourself. So stop waiting, stop wishing, start moving. Discipline over doubt, action over excuses. Because the life you want isn't built by chance, it's built by force. You either make it happen or you live with the regret of not trying. Decide now. Push yourself. Make it happen. Your future is waiting.